The good thing about this episode is that we don't need banter. We have too much to talk about this week.
Oh, we don't. I love a little banter, though.
We really missed Maya this weekend because she was at home for Father's Day.
Yeah, happy Father's Day and my sister's birthday.
It's like everyone's birthday. It's
I know.
Crazy. Yeah. It's like overwhelming.
Why do we know so many Geminis?
My bank account is at 0.
There's supposed to be 2. What?
Oh, it's just because like there's so many birthdays and gifts.
Oh.
Wait, what'd you get Audie? Sorry.
Okay. So I did get him. I found a leather jacket.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
okay, good.
And I'm renting a Porsche 715 Boxster.
Wait, that's so
for the
cute.
Day. Yeah.
That's so cute.
And then we're going to go to Napa and go in the Porsche and drive around.
Oh my God, that's so cute.
Yeah. Okay, welcome back to Get the Check. I'm Maya.
I'm Anika.
I'm Priya.
And today we have a fun lineup for you. So first we're going to start off with Meta's investment in Scale AI. They're taking a 49% stake for $14.3 billion. And also Alexander Wang will be joining Meta's Superintelligence team. And then next, we're also going to go into the recent No Kings protest across the country, as well as the ICE raids in LA, and specifically the impact that has on the rest of the country.
So like Maya mentioned, Meta has invested $14 billion for a 49% non-voting stake. And if you're curious what's going to happen to Scale, they've already appointed their new CEO, who is Scale's strategy chief. His name is Jason Droge, and he'll be taking over. They were previously valued at $13 billion in 2024, but then earlier this year, they did do a tender offer for $25 billion. So this is like pretty in line with what we would expect to see.
So going into specifically what Scale AI does before we get into the deal, they specialize in providing high quality labeled data sets for training AI models. And this includes data annotation, validation, and model evaluation. So Scale AI actually got their start with the AV industry. So they started data labeling traffic data so that cars could understand, hey, this is a stoplight, or this is a traffic light, or a pedestrian walking down the street. And then they realized that this can be also applicable to our AI models and LLMs. And now the recent trends in training these LLM models is using a method called RLHF, which is reinforcement learning human feedback, where you basically label the data set with a reward signal, and you, for example, this is a good math equation, or this is a bad answer to the math equation. So like thumbs up, thumbs down, like qualitative feedback, so that the model can optimize its rewards, and that's how you update the weights. So being a data labeler and a data provider and a data annotator, all of this is very crucial for companies that create models, hence Meta or OpenAI or Google. They all need a data labeler provider to train their models.
And we have an episode on that as well, in case you're curious.
Yeah, and Scale was founded in 2016, so it's like almost a decade old now.
Yeah, so basically they said that they're now going to have an expanded partnership, and specifically the words they said were they're going to deepen the work they do together producing data for AI models, and the agreement will substantially expand Scale and Meta's commercial relationship. So I think that all makes sense, but what's pretty interesting are the terms of this deal, because it wasn't something that I feel like is talked about a lot.
So specifically, their employees are going to get paid out, I think 75 to 100% for the value of the deal.
So it's specifically taking the money from the partnership and basically paying out dividends to the employees and investors and all the people that have shares, because usually they would just like buy out the shares themselves, and the employee or the investor would just have like a normal exit in the company and make whatever full amount it was. But in this case, Scale said, we're not actually going to use this investment towards R&D or like whatever else they might want to do. And they're instead just going to pay out all of their employees and investors.
Are they getting paid with Meta stock, or are they getting paid with cash?
Cash.
That's crazy.
It's literally straight cash.
Well, this is something we covered in the AI trend report last week from Mary Meeker, is that like Meta and like the top 6 companies, big tech companies, have a bunch of free cash flow now. I think Meta had like 50 billion. So it makes sense where this cash is coming from, but that's still a crazy check.
Yeah, because it's like they're basically just paying all this money, not even to develop Scale as a company, but just to get Alexander Wang. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, because like they can throw money at the problem in order to become a top. Yeah. Like in order to become a top leader in the industry again, which is like basically Zuck's Hail Mary attempt at coming back into the game, because Llama sucks.
Yeah, and so like to put numbers to it, Excel, there was like a Bloomberg article about Excel and like what their payout is going to be, which is $2.5 billion. And their investment only totals like 300 something million. And they still get to keep
That's
all of their
crazy.
equity, which is like an 18.5% stake. So it's pretty crazy.
So employees and investors get a little payday. That's why Lucy Guo is now the youngest female billionaire, which is like a whole other thing. Because basically people were like, how is she the youngest female billionaire? Like, how did she do
already
it?
was.
Yeah.
No, I thought
Apparently
this was the thing.
No, like, because they announced that before they announced this. Allegedly, she liquidated her Scale AI shares earlier.
Oh, okay.
But I don't want to talk too much.
She
on her
probably
name.
liquidated it in the tender offer in April because that was just about when the Forbes article came out. But honestly, it's like not even a bad deal because she basically got paid out at a $25 billion valuation. So
Yeah. But yeah, getting into like why Meta specifically wanted to get 49%, which I just think is like kind of odd.
Yeah, so basically they got 49% and it's non-voting shares because it's less likely to trigger an automatic like FTC review of what they're doing. And we've actually seen other companies do like super similar things. So like Google acquired Character AI when it was worth like $1 billion. And they kind of did a similar thing where they took the co-founders and they took like a decent amount of the staff as well that were like AI engineers. Character AI was basically like building a model where like you could have your own personalized AI. And they paid around like 2.5 billion to license Character AI's existing models, but they didn't actually take a stake in the company itself.
yeah.
So not like 1-to-1, but similar. But then I think like Character AI basically like doesn't really
It's like
exist
a dead.
anymore.
Everyone's like, it's like a zombie company from the inside now.
So they basically just like paid that much for the hires and then the technology. And Microsoft also did the same thing with Inflection, which was like an AI lab. And they also left like a gutted company behind basically.
So are we saying Scale is going to get gutted?
Well, that's on the docket to discuss.
We'll get into it later.
But yeah, going into like what Meta's trying to do, they recently announced their Superintelligence Lab, and Alex is supposed to lead this.
Yeah, Priya and I were having an interesting conversation about like why Alex. Obviously, he's really smart and like one of the main voices that's cited whenever AI is being discussed. I think one thing is like he's in the public eye. Like if I were to think about like who someone that like keeps up with tech but not like a ton knows in AI, it's like Sam Altman.
Yeah.
And like I would almost put Alex as like number 2.
I actually wouldn't put Alex
Mark
that
Zuckerberg.
high up.
Okay, take out like huge tech company CEOs or founders, and then it's like him. I feel like if you think about the size of Scale compared to like the size of like Meta, the fact that they're like in the same category in terms of like interviews on AI.
Yeah, and he was
know.
like in Congress, like with the rest of them testifying on
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
He also like has been on this like there's been this whole shift under like Trump's second administration where a lot of these tech leaders, I would say like they've become forefront figures in like policy discussions. And he's like really done that for a long time and been like AI is like the key to America winning.
Yeah, no, I think it does make sense because it's also like he's leading this team of researchers. They talked about how they took Jack Ray, who is a principal researcher from DeepMind, to lead their pre-training, and like they have some other big names as well. So I think it makes sense that Alex, as someone who is at the forefront of all these trends and like in the right circles, is leading these efforts where they basically say their goal is to design AI systems that are more capable than the human brain is like what they're saying.
I think that you don't need your PhDs to be your CEOs. Like in this case, like Alex is probably going to be like a mini CEO of like whatever AI models they have. I think it's like the perfect blend of someone who understands the tech, understands where it's going, also understands the world policy behind it, and then finally understands how to run a business.
I almost think like more than the world policy, like knows how to sell the technology to the government.
Yeah, that's true too.
And they're trying to get to AGI or ASI, which is artificial superintelligence, something that surpasses human expertise. And so this is essentially them saying, yeah, like we're behind in the AI race and we're back in it and we're going to pay 9-figure pay packages to all these people and poach a bunch of them.
Yeah, to like your point about how Mark Zuckerberg feels like they're super behind, there were a bunch of articles that came out after, and he was like, I'm so personally frustrated with the pace of like Meta's AI development. And apparently with this whole change, he reorganized the Meta office so that the AI team will sit right next to him in the office, and he fully rearranged their office because he was like, I need to keep an eye on them and I need to be super hands-on in this entire process.
That's so funny. Well, he's, I feel like, been just frustrated with his employees in general.
Yeah, I think though at the rate that AI moves and seeing them take a year plus to what come out with the next model, like Llama 4, and then see like OpenAI, Claude, Gemini just do so well, it's okay that he's like that.
Yeah, and just to give a little more context as to like where Meta is in the AI race, and like Maya saying that it took them a year to get from Llama 3 to Llama 4, which in the AI lab space is a really long time. They basically are behind like the 3 major research labs, which are Google, OpenAI, and Anthropic. And Llama is like an open source model. There was a ton of controversy about like who can be using it, like if DeepSeek was trained on like Llama, all of these things. And people in general have said that Llama 4, even after it took a year to release, didn't meet their expectations. I do genuinely think there's a point at which it's like the point of no return where you will not be able to compete in the foundational model space.
I think we're probably like already past it, and the only reason Meta has a chance is like because they
have the capital.
They have the capital, and also it's like not like they're not in the race, they're just behind.
I was gonna say like we thought Google was going to be out of the race, and then they dropped Gemini 2.5.
That's true.
And then like they were suddenly in the race.
Like, I think like it's like the big tech, like I feel like Meta, like Google, like they, like even like Apple, I feel like could have some potential of being like a dark horse maybe, but it's like I don't think there'll be like someone else.
I mean, even DeepSeek came out of it randomly too. I think more importantly is like, where is AI going in terms of data labeling? What are the things that make models better? Data, obviously. And so like, how do you get access to better training data sets and also better post-training methods to make your model that much better? And so as we move towards AGI and ASI, one of the key callouts, specifically in AI 2027, was creating a model that continuously learned and was able to update itself in real time. And so when you think about that future and then you think about where we are now, it's like, okay, what's the difference? There's what we have right now, which is just scaling the current version of RL, so expert labeled data. And then I think there's like a whole other world on the other spectrum, which is like, hey, is there going to be an advancement where we can like update these models real time? Are we close to that? And that rests on an algorithmic breakthrough. And so in the middle, you're basically trying to do anything you can to have a step change in the next model that you produce. The things that are more controllable are specifically working with people like Scale, because Scale has access to like this expert network that they've created.
So do you think like it's something they couldn't have gotten just from being a customer of Scale? Like you think it goes beyond that?
Yes, because I think if you want to control, like if you believe Scale has access to this expert network and can provide you access to this data labeling system, which is that much better than all of the competitors out there, you're going to want to do something close to an acquisition of that competitor. Like if Scale is truly ahead of like Surge, Snorkel, Mercor in that way, you're going to want to gain access to that, and you're going to want your competitors to be like, no, I'm not going to use Scale anymore, so that if you truly believe in that term, you lock it down.
It's like more to hurt Meta's competitors than to help themselves. It's like not so much that their relationship with Scale changes because of this stake, like in terms of what they're doing. Like sure, it might be like deeper or like bigger, but it's like essentially like all those, like you can make the relationship deeper and bigger as a customer too. Like that's not exclusive to owning a part of a company.
Yeah, I guess
it's more like hurting their competitors.
Yeah, it's almost like the fallout from their competitors is almost like purposeful. Like everyone's like, oh my God, Scale's losing all customers, right? All these people can like now, there's a bunch of contracts that are now open to go up for grabs, right? Maybe like Meta actually wanted that.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, do you think it's like maybe Meta wanted that, or do you think it's like they definitely wanted that? Like that's the point of it.
I'm not sure.
Like
I
feel like the point is almost like a combination of that and like Alexander Wang.
Yeah.
I know. I kind of feel like a lot of it was they had to make the deal good enough for Alex to join. I just don't know if Scale is like, do you think they're differentiated enough from everyone else that it's worth Meta doing this just to like deepen this relationship, I guess?
When you do market mapping and you like try to like research the competitors, research the contract sizes, like Scale is like miles above.
So like years deeper into their product. I'm trying to say is like I feel like the effect is more to their competitors than like it's more like other people losing access to the ability to get their private data labeled by like the top player than like Meta somehow getting access to something. Because usually it's like you acquire a company and you get access to like technology that you didn't have access to before. But it's different in this case where like Scale's entire product was already providing that technology for Meta. And they also already had deepened their relationship even before this acquisition. Like they worked on Defense Llama together, which was basically like fine-tuning Llama for
I
the
totally
DoD.
forgot about that.
Yeah. So like they had partnerships. Like it's not even like, oh, they needed like to acquire a stake in order to like work together on these projects for the DoD and the government. Like,
You think it's just restricting access for the rest
I mean,
of
that's the only thing I can come up with.
And Alex.
Yeah, like the only thing I can come up with is that and Alex. And like I'm sure there is benefit to like owning 49% of the company that labels your data. And I think the benefit is like mainly verticalization, right? When you can verticalize as a company, like you own the model layer, you own because it goes like data layer, model layer, then there's like the compute layer, and the application layer, and they don't own compute, right? But they own everything else.
Well, they're trying to. They like have some research in developing chips, but they're still working.
But
with
we need
NVIDIA.
it.
But it's
basically.
but it's like they don't own the compute layer, but they own like every single other layer, and it's like the compute layer is probably like the layer that people are most okay with not owning also.
Well, so this is what I wonder is actually like maybe having scale in-house gets them closer to continual learning LLMs faster, because like in order to like update your model real time, you also need to like provide feedback on the data real time, which would be what scale needs to do in this case. So like you said, like being completely integrated in like labeling the data real time or evaluating the data real time.
Yeah, like it's more efficient. It doesn't need to like go through scale, then go through,
Not even just like more efficient, but having the team now dedicated to that purpose because you own that big of a stake. Because like, what's his name?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yan?
The way you said that was
said
so
it like
funny.
Yanny and Laurel.
Yan LeCun. Yeah.
Oh, what? Can I see this?
Chief AI scientist.
It's
Yan,
literally just Yan. Like, I don't know why she's saying it like that.
Yan.
You sound like Parm.
I know.
Chief AI scientist Yan LeCun is trying to explore neurosymbolic and energy-based architecture, which from what I understand is just another version continual learning LLMs. And like he wants to champion this next wave, and he has like an idea on how to get there. And I think part of that is having scale in-house.
To provide like the data feedback as quickly as possible, or like on demand.
Yeah, I don't even think it's like on demand. Like I think you can definitely have have it be a separate SaaS, like Scale still be a third party. It's just the fact that like now that they own Scale, like they can work together to develop it faster. But I don't think like the actual like network latency would have been longer if Scale was not built in-house, because like Scale can always like deploy an on-prem like service for them if they really wanted to like reduce latency. I think it's just the fact that now your two initiatives are aligned together to reach ASI versus before Scale's pure initiative is just to get the biggest contracts. And so like aligning those a little more closely of like reaching ASI and trying to work on this continual learning LLMs basically makes them not have to worry about dollars coming in.
Yeah. But like, don't you think that like Meta will still, and I guess this kind of gets into the other players as well, but do you think that Meta will continue to rely on other players as well? Because I feel like for any model, you need to rely on like 5 to 10 different labeling sources.
Really?
Yeah, like all the players do.
They all have contracts with like all the same companies.
But don't they have like bigger contracts with one company? Like isn't Anthropic's like main contract with a different player?
I mean,
like,
sure.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's like bigger or smaller contracts, but like on average, there's at least like 4 to 5 public vendors, which are all the companies that we're going to get into that will like talk about their competitors. But then they also, in addition to that, usually have like 5 to 10 smaller vendors that are like more specialized in a specific thing. And so when you have all of these different labelers, and it's important to have like this diversity of data, I feel like Meta is also going to need that. So basically the 4 competitors that we want to talk about are Snorkel, Surge, Mercor, and Turing. And when I was looking into all of them, literally every single one is like, yeah, we have an OpenAI contract. And like they do. And obviously they're like 2 different degrees. I guess I'm just curious, like before we get into that, what you guys think Meta will do now that like they're committing themselves basically to like scale.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think that they still will need like other
I
labelers
agree.
as well.
I just think they'll like reduce it the same way.
Significantly,
Like, yeah.
Well, maybe it's like that they'll still have those contracts, but like a lot of their like cutting edge research will be done with like Scale.
Yeah.
So basically, like some of these companies that have already said they're going to split from Scale AI, it's like a little breakup. It's like Google, Microsoft, XAI have like announced that they're planning to split, and I'm sure there'll be others that follow as well. And Google was planning to pay Scale $200 million this year. So these are like huge contracts, which makes sense. It's like Google and Meta. So
That's crazy.
And so some of the places that they were looking, the first one is Snorkel AI. They do a bunch of different things, but like one of the services they offer is a data labeling and annotation platform. And what's unique about them is that they focus on using labeling functions to automatically label data, which is different than everyone else who actually does have a human in the loop.
Yeah, and it's good for industries where it's like expensive to get data labelers. So like the medical industry, the legal industry, the financial industry, because there's been kind of a race to the bottom with data labeling where like the prices have just gone, like people just want like the cheapest price. So Snorkel AI is an alternative where like I assume they're priced cheaper because they're doing it automatically.
Maybe, I honestly don't know. Is that also because it's like proprietary, or is it primarily just like how difficult it is to get someone?
I think it's both.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But then like I feel like that's like the status quo, and then like maybe long term, like what Maya is saying, will like come into play where like if a model needs to like improve itself, and an aspect of that is like data labeling, and this is like programmatic.
I think a lot of the labelers, like you said, like they have their standard offerings, and I think all of their net new offerings are being developed under design partner contracts with the top AI labs. I think like that's how it works.
And basically, like, the way they're able to do this automatic labeling is just through, like, a rules-based system and a heuristics-based system. So it expresses the domain knowledge of a subject matter expert, but it isn't, like, an actual person that's a subject matter expert. So it's, like, keywords, patterns, database lookups, things like that. And they can basically just auto-label any data set you want.
Yeah, and then speaking of the fact that Snorkel is in like a lot of areas where it's like scarce data or expensive to label to get like a medical professional to label, that's kind of where Surge AI comes in, because their data labeling workforce is highly skilled. And so they have like the doctor or the physician like labeling your data or whatever. It might even be like a finance professional. So they focus on like really high quality data, and they do like a lot of language stuff, I think, too.
Yeah, it's funny because like a year ago not a year ago, but like 8 months ago when we like talked about Scale, we were like, oh, like 3 or 4 months ago they just released their like expert data labeling service.
I remember that.
And like now like that's like a must have for any data labeler.
Yeah.
And I just thought about how it's crazy how fast like the needs for that specific type of product have like exploded across the industry.
Yeah, why didn't we think about doing that then? Because like that's like basically what Mercor does too.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Well, I feel like when we were talking about it, it probably had already been
Too late.
Yeah. Because if they're like talking about it, they definitely have been working on it for like the last 6 months, and it's like already in production getting used somewhere.
Yeah.
Guys, if we just started the podcast a little earlier.
But yeah, that brings me to Mercor, because like they their whole thing is like they say they're a recruiting platform, and I guess in a sense they are, but they basically get like software engineers and like other professionals to do the data labeling, and they have this like long-term vision where like you go to them to get like a full-time job because they use like AI to interview you. But in the status quo, their product is like mainly contracts with like Meta, Google, OpenAI. I don't know specifically which one. You probably know, but I don't know which specific companies.
Do
Yeah,
they just
have, like,
hire the labelers, or do they actually do the labeling pipeline too?
They hire the labelers. So like basically they have a network of experts, and like those are like doctors, software engineers, PMs, like whatever it might be. And then the way their structure works is like they have like a projects lead basically that like leads each of these companies. So like OpenAI will have an SPL. Didn't you get a bunch of emails about recruiting for their SPL role?
I think like one email.
We know like so
But
many
like
people.
a lot of my friends in consulting have like interviewed for their SPL position. Like,
yeah, so like literally everyone we know.
everyone's
what is this
I've
role?
talked to them about briefly.
It's like kind of a TPM role.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so what do they do?
So
Like,
basically,
SPL?
like, they're the owners of that contract. So let's say there's like an SPL assigned to the OpenAI deal.
Yeah.
So like they completely own that and dedicate all of their time to it. And so like what they need to do is like go find experts. You have to go find the talent and then connect that talent to, let's say, OpenAI in this case. And so like Mercor is going to pay a software engineer $200 an hour. They actually pay like pretty well. And so they'll pay the software engineer.
Okay, ad.
And then they'll connect that person to like OpenAI and have a bunch of people on this project for like 5 weeks, let's say. And so it's
and
a
so
lot
their
more
hiring
specialized.
their hiring is not even automated. It's just this SPL doing the hiring.
No, because like then they have each expert go through like an
yeah.
AI interview.
But still,
no.
it's not even.
No, but like that's the point. Like scale, like, because I talked to like a decent amount of, like, by decent I mean like 2 or 3 people that have done like strat ops at scale, and I feel like strat ops at scale is like a messier problem than like me doing ops at Faye, because like Faye's like scope of like total people involved in the marketplace is like, you can look it up, it'll be like in the thousands, right? But like scales is in the hundreds of thousands. So imagine like the operational burden just like scaling. And I feel like when you're in ops at like any company, like whether it's like people at scale or like, things are not like so fully automated everywhere. Like there's a lot of like things where there's like someone doing it.
But I guess my point is like, do they not have like a recruiting pipeline, like to recruit like a bunch of these like software engineers to hire for OpenAI to label?
They do, but I'm sure there's like a matching component of like, you need to understand the specific project OpenAI wants, make sure you have like the right people doing it. And then like, from what I understand about scale, it's like the quality check is like not an easy problem to solve either, because like these like contractors never have any incentive to like actually do a good job unless they're getting penalized for not doing a good job. So like
Mercor manages all of that, like all of those contracts.
Like they ensure like a higher quality of data for sure, which is like what they
scale
pitch. Like,
for sure does, yeah.
So are you saying now Mercor can be another scale AI, since they already know how to hire these
They are
people?
another like scale AI with higher skilled people, but I think the like distinguishing factor between Mercor and scale is like scale never tried to pitch themselves as like these data labelers are getting like AI interview. Like Mercor's pitch is like, these high skilled people are going through like AI interviews that basically tell us exactly like the quality. Because
and like take out bias
think
and
about
like
it
all
as
those
like
things.
almost like a person looking at scale being like, what's scale's biggest problem? And scale always said their biggest problem that their strat ops people focused on was like quality of data labelers. So Mercor solves that with like their AI interviews, but that doesn't mean you don't still need like a SPL who like figures out all the other stuff
and manages the relationship, because like when you have contracts which like
that are that big,
like they're really big.
Because like I feel like the stories from scale like in the early days that we talked about when we did the whole scale episode were like, one day like they messed up and they're like labeling for Meta, and it's like Alexander Wang like tells the entire company like, this needs to be fixed now. Like, I don't remember the story, but it was like first person to fix this gets a paid trip or something. But it's like, that's like code red, right? But like day to day, who's the person ensuring all that stuff? It's like whatever they call SPL at scale, which is like strat ops. So like there's definitely things they're doing.
I just assumed they were just getting the people, but they weren't actually managing the data labeling pipeline. Like, because scale still built like the data coming in and the data going out, and like literally ETL pipelines to like move this data back and forth from their customers. Versus I thought like Mercor was literally just providing the human power, but like would still use Scale's infrastructure to actually label the data itself.
Because I honestly don't know what they're using.
And I thought, so like I just assumed Mercor was just the human manpower of like, here's a bunch of people that will do good work, but like doesn't actually have the platform to label data. Like literally software engineering a platform to build, to like handle like terabytes, not even terabytes, like I don't even know what the next thing after that is, of data back and forth efficiently, and like pipe it to the right person and give it to them on demand and then pipe it back. Like that's a really hard fucking thing to do, and Scale has had so much time to do it because they did it for the AV industry for so long, which is like video data, so it's like very, very like large data, if that makes sense. Like they built a large data platform. Big data platform. Oh my god, I've said data like 20 times. But that's why I was like,
that TikTok where it's like big data. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Kind of.
But yeah, that's why I was like so confused as to how like Mercor is going to move into this.
I don't know if they're in the pipeline or not. But anyways, the last one's Turing. And they basically match remote software engineers with companies. But I don't know if they're like more like I think they're more like contracty type of software engineers.
Yeah. It,
So
like
there are
they
more-
said, their CEO said companies like Turing are helping. It was so funny. In his tweet, he said scale AI models, but it's like sounds like it's scale AI. So when I read it the first time, I was like, what? But basically, their CEO said that Turing is helping scale AI models to to compensate for the data deficit we face. So I think that goes back to like the original point of like there is some data deficit and like some diversity of data that they're missing, and so they are trying to fill that gap. And I think they're like more similar to Mercor from what I understand.
I was gonna say I feel like Mercor is like in the middle of Turing and scale.
Like Turing's more on the matching software engineers to jobs.
Yeah, like even more than Mercor. That seems to be their like primary focus.
I mean, the other thing is that I think some of the labs, like OpenAI, for sure, has their own data labeling system to some extent because they use it internally to do safety evals.
Yeah.
And so I think they probably have like a generic platform infrastructure that's built for like Mercor's hires to just drop into and to also label. So it could
That's
also just
that's also
I'm sure that's
possible,
true.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last thing I wanted to talk about, which is something that people have been talking about in the world of RL, is sparse reward domains. So sparse reward domains is like when there's like a long tool usage, and then basically at the end is like finally when you get the signal of like a very verifiable signal. So you can think of a chess game as like many, many moves, and in the end you finally get checkmate. And so and specifically in the robotics world, like you can move your hand a bunch of times, but it's only like when you really like pick up that water bottle in the end where you know you did the right thing. A really hard part about building agents and these like very long context running agents is not just like memory or staying on track. It's also like being okay with not having a reward until the very end. And so they called these domains sparse reward domains, and they've like had a very tough time like using RL in those domains. And in order to like crack this domain, these data labelers are going to have to figure out a way to basically like create these like process reward data sets where you like have like heuristics on like, yes, this step was correct, or no, this step was incorrect. So in chess, it's like, yeah, if you take a queen, like you will likely win. But like sometimes you could take a queen but then give up your queen, right? And so like you will probably not win in that case. And so you would need to start building in like labels of like, yes, this step was like directionally correct, and like have a way to crack these the right way.
Or
Humans
like,
can do that?
I think for chess it's like very easy because like a human can, like a good chess player can be like,
Now
that was
hiring chess experts.
There's, like-
oh my god, that little boy that won. Did you guys see that meme?
Gurkesh.
I
Yeah.
don't know what his name is.
Like chess people can definitely tell you directionally like this was correct or this was incorrect. Also like chess, you know, what is it, Deep Blue or something? Do you know that like chess,
I'm like the wrong person to look at right now.
like basically like
The Queen's Gambit?
no, not the Queen's Gambit. Like there's this.
Wait, you didn't watch the show?
No.
It's about chess. It's so good.
I know it's about chess, and that's why I didn't watch.
Oh.
I have chess trauma, but we don't need to go.
Oh
into
my
that.
god.
What is the chess trauma?
Like when I was little, I used to play chess with my dad every day, and I actually got pretty good when I was like 4. And then I was at public school, and my parents made me go
for
to.
the 2 years you were there.
Yeah, and I'm saying public school that way because like I was getting bullied. And I started getting forced to go to chess club after school, and I tried to go without anyone seeing me. Honestly, that was just like my whole life, because then later I had to go to debate without anyone seeing me. And it was only boys. The entire club was only boys, and I literally still remember what the
obviously.
chess teacher looked like.
It was setting you up for success in San Francisco.
Yeah. It
Well,
was.
I don't remember how to play now. But I just have like chess
No, I meant the
trauma.
ratio.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Like the ratios that me and Priya specifically have been in some really heinous ratios recently.
Yeah.
What?
Like
there's 2
events.
girls and like 50
there's 2
guys.
girls and like 50 dudes.
Well, that's just like living in the city.
No, it's been worse for sure.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah. Anyway, we need to finish this story up, guys.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry
it's
about
been
your
so
trauma,
long.
Annika.
But yeah,
Well,
okay.
You didn't even figure out the Deep Blue situation.
Okay, so no, basically I think it's called Deep Blue, but back in the 90s or 2000s, like it was the first computer to ever beat a human. The way that the chess algorithms work is they basically explore like every version of every move you can make, and then make a judge on like what's the next best move. And so like technically you could train an LLM by having like the like deep blue on the other side saying like, oh, this was directionally a right move or incorrect move. And so like that's how you can think of it about like in general in any sparse reward domains. You're going to need to, I think like the idea is that you create these like heuristic pipelines that like tell the model like they're moving in the right direction, and you need like good annotation. And so like Scale will probably have to solve some type of problem if they want to start like building LLMs in those types of domains.
So basically you're saying like it's data labeling, but like you might have to label like a video over time, like basically like multiple images over time.
Yeah, it's not like yes, this is correct or no, this is incorrect. It's like this is directionally in the right way. The step is correct, and you have all these little steps, and then finally, yes, you did it well. Or even like, and you want to label like the almost successes. So like you did 90% the right thing and then 10% the wrong thing. Like you need to have that like variance in the data set to be able to show a model like how to move in the right direction.
It's like the same way like there's like websites where you can like play a computer in chess and it'll tell you like how good you were at losing. Like you lost, but you're still like a higher level than another person that lost.
Yeah, those are all basically built deterministically because it knows all the possible moves, because it literally like explores. It's like a DP graph or whatever, explores like all the possible combinations of things you can do. And an LLM doesn't necessarily do that. It just like kind of generates the next token.
So do you guys think other companies will follow this structure? Potentially Apple and Cohere?
I feel like Apple kind of needs to do something in the same way as Meta. I think they're in somewhat similar positions, at least from what we know.
Worse position.
I don't know. Apple, dude, like,
you think they have something up their sleeve?
I don't know. I don't know if they have something. I don't even know. I feel like it's a good time to buy. If you're like an Apple person, like it's a good time to buy because they have nothing right now.
Not financial advice.
I feel like they could stay a hardware player also.
Yeah, and I think they will.
I mean, they still have product taste anyway. I actually don't think their hardware is the best thing. I think their product taste is the best thing.
Yeah, but their hardware is pretty good too.
But all I will say with Apple in general is that like people used to think that there was going to be the first person to reach AGI, but now it just seems that like multiple players will reach AGI at like kind of the same time, because the differences between the leading Claude model and the leading like OpenAI model and the leading Gemini model are like points apart.
Obviously I'm not an AI researcher, like just based on what I've heard, like what you need and the breakthrough needed to reach AGI is actually significant enough that like one person could get to it over another, and that's what like puts them way above.
I feel like that's not going to happen, but I don't have a good reason.
I just personally think that the way things are going is like the players are all near each other, and Apple has the free cash flow to like get there if they want to pump enough money into it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So next up, we are going to be talking about the No Kings protests that have erupted across the country. It's estimated that 1% of the country has participated in one, and this all was catalyzed by the ICE raids in LA that started around June 6th, June 7th, and were in like Home Depots and other local areas.
Yeah, before we get too much into it, I know, Anika, you went to the protest on Saturday. How was it?
It was good. I feel like we're going to get into like the initial protest in LA versus then the No Kings protest that took place on Saturday. But I would say like the No Kings protest on Saturday were like organized. They weren't like an emotional response to an event that just happened. Mm-hmm. So they were like extremely peaceful. Like I've been to a few protests. Like I've been to a Free Palestine protest in SF, a pro-abortion rights protest in Berkeley. And like out of all of those, this one was, they honestly have all been demure, but this one was like the most demure, to the point that there weren't even like police there, which makes sense because it's SF. Yeah. Like I actually didn't see a cop like the whole time I was there.
No, I know. I've seen like so many pictures and videos on Instagram, and I feel like all of it, no matter where it was, like they were in Dolo, they were on Market, they were all over the city, and they all seemed like very demure.
Obviously the main focus of the marches is ICE and like the things that Trump has been doing with ICE in like LA and the rest of California and even the rest of the country. But there's a lot of other causes that I feel like have been like festering as well. Like there's this general sense that Trump is like engaging in authoritarian overreach, and if you like go on the website of the No Kings protest, that's like what they highlight. And a lot of people were like, I don't even get like what is the goal of this, like it's so broad on social media. But then other people were like, but that's the point, like everyone's united in the fact that like maybe we don't agree on every single issue, but like what he's doing is like like overreach of his power, basically.
Yeah, and actually what's so funny is like on that day, we sat down on the couch and my aunt turned on Fox News. And I was like, why the fuck are you turning on Fox News? Like, because clearly we're all like a left-leaning family. And she's like, no, you don't understand. Like Fox is finally willing to like cover these like protests properly. Because originally like the first, like in the beginning of the protests, like especially in LA when they first started, they would just cover like the police part and like say like, oh, see, they're being violent here. And then they got a lot of backlash, so they finally were willing to cover like the protest in of its entirety. And so they literally had someone like on the screen who was like a Democratic, like obviously it's like someone from like the Democratic Party, talking for like 30 minutes and giving her speech as to like why they're doing the protest and everything, and they were like willing to broadcast it. So I think like even right-wing media is like finally willing to recognize like his actions and like his authoritarianism.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of this has been helped by social media and like TikTok, because that was the way I think they were able to organize so many people. Like you said, 1% of the population. Like how many people is that?
Yeah, so it was like about 5 million people, which
That's
is
insane.
1 to 2% of the population, and it's the largest protest in the history of the country in terms of number of people ever.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
No, that is crazy.
Because that's like actual like history being made. And then I was like, oh, what was the next largest? And it was like the Women's March, which was also like anti-Trump during his first term, which was 4 million. And then the largest after that was like during BLM, and it drops off to like under 1 million people. Like I think the BLM like largest single day protest was estimated at around 100K, albeit I feel like BLM continued for a long time.
Yeah.
And then the fourth one was like in response to like a mass shooting. So it's like that's pretty crazy, because that means that like all of the other top protests were not even against a singular person. They were against like institutions, besides the one that was against Trump as well. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. No, it is crazy.
The protest got controversial for two main reasons. The first had to do with obviously people saying that there's like rioters and looters, and I feel like that conversation happens every time there's a protest. I did watch the videos of like the initial protests on like the 6th and 7th, I believe, in LA, where they're like throwing rocks at police, and there's like people like destroying Waymos, setting things on fire. And like I think there's a deeper conversation to be had about like violence as a tool when you're like being oppressed, and I can understand like why some people resort to that, but like obviously there was some component of violence. And like Newsom, who's like the California governor and like very liberal, was like, there was violence, there was like around 227 arrests being made, like we're not going to support that. But like that doesn't represent like the majority of like the millions of people that ended up marching on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, he clearly said in his statement, like you said, we will be protecting anyone who safely protested. And then we will not be protecting anyone who's like not safely protested, which makes sense. It was interesting because it was like kind of a combination of like their sissy fights that they've been having and it playing out like on the national stage with Trump mobilizing like the National Guard in this situation. And it's just getting out of control. At this point, I can't tell if Trump is trying to mobilize the National Guard to say something to the entire country or to specifically say something to Newsom, or if it's like a combination of both, which I'm sure it's probably a combination of both. But I just think it's like just such an extremist action.
I think it's like the same projection of power that he does in like every scenario. Like I would liken it to like with colleges, where he basically takes like the expected like checks and balances of power that like him and any other powerful institution in the country have, and just like shows that he's like stronger. Historically, the National Guard is only deployed when like local law enforcement is too overwhelmed. So like examples of this are like during BLM, the National Guard was deployed in LA, and that was something that like Newsom had said like was necessary. It's been deployed after like Hurricane Katrina. So like in that type of instance, it's not like against protesters, but like it's like a law. It was like described as a lawless area because like people were evacuating
and like looting homes and all of that because there was no one there. I mean, like it was a huge issue because like no one was there, and all of these people's things are still in their homes. So it's the same as the LA fires. Like this was a huge issue with the LA fires. It's the same situation when there's like any natural disaster, and that's like why the National Guard
there's like there's like no infrastructure at that point to like keep the place in peace.
So you bring in the National Guard. This was like the California National Guard, so they took them away from the border, which is like what they're supposed to be doing. And so that was like part of Newsom's like other issue with it, was he was like, they're like doing an important job. And then he said that the majority of them,
That's so ironic.
yeah, I know. And he was like, the majority of them, like when they came to the protest, like were just like sitting doing nothing because there was like nothing to do.
Yeah.
And so there is like one point I want to make here, which is that like I think there's an interesting like states versus federal rights conversation. Whenever there's a states versus federal rights conversation, like liberals are always pro generally federal rights, and then the Republicans are always pro the state rights. And examples of this would be like gun control, where like conservatives say like, even if like we have to have background checks nationally, like why do we need that in our specific state, or like why can't we have like XYZ other thing. And then the other big one I would say is like abortion, where they like want to make all their own specific rules per state, and then liberals are like, you can't do that, and they're like, why not? And so I think it's interesting now in the other way, where like Newsom is being like, and this is what like the president is too, but he's like I don't want the National Guard, and Trump's like, no, like you need to have it.
I guess I wanted to ask, I always assumed that the Republicans were only pro state rights when they knew that there was already an established law in place. Like so like for Roe v. Wade, there was already like an established law there in place kind of through that court case, and so that they knew that the only way to get around that was through state rights. I didn't realize that like Republicans are just generally pro state rights over the federal government.
Both.
But wouldn't like Republicans prefer for abortion to also be national at the national level? They just know it can't happen. Same way the Democrats would think.
Yeah. Like you're right, but then it's also like as of recently, most of their issues were like null on the federal level, like abortion, background checks was mandated nationally, like they're losing nationally.
Yeah.
So then they start being like, wait, like states should have rights. But the idea of states' rights as a philosophy is like a deeper thing, because it's something the like founders talked about. Because like when they first came here, they were like, we don't want like another like tyranny of a government.
Yeah, but that's not states' rights is not a Republican issue though. I'm just saying it's like in this day and age, it looks like it.
Yeah,
given
like,
the current
I guess
state.
What I'm trying to say is like you would very rarely hear like a liberal politician in the last like I don't know how many years be like states' rights is important, but you hear it from the Republicans all the time, like that's like one of their philosophies, which like to your point is probably like mostly opportunistic, but that's like a lot of overall political philosophy.
Yeah. It's just like I'm just saying, I guess like I don't think it's like deep core in the institutional layer that they want state rights over federal rights. I think it's just like you said, opportunistic thing given the last 10 years. But yeah, I guess as it pertains to like the National Guard issue, when Newsom doesn't believe it should be deployed there, does Newsom have any power to like say no to the president in that case? Well, he did. Like, does he, I know obviously he did say no, but like, does he have any power to stop the National Guard except for like the judge, putting in the ban against it?
I don't think he can stop it himself, because like usually the president and like the governor would have a conversation about it. Yeah. But in this case, like they didn't.
Yeah. I think it's just like never been. The situation's never happened.
Like they've never disagreed.
No.
Yeah.
This is like the first time it's ever happened. But like what Newsom was saying was that he had a really friendly conversation with Trump like a day or two before this all happened, and that Trump didn't say anything about sending the National Guard, which like that is ridiculous. Like I feel like everyone can agree that like you obviously need to have a coordinated effort on something like that. But I think like the meat of the conversation is really about like Trump's ICE versus other administrations' ICE, because like to play like devil's advocate in this conversation, you'd probably be like Obama like deported more people than Trump did during his like first term, right? And like why is like what Trump is doing so bad if like these people came here without documents? So isn't that like not an okay thing to do? Like that would be the counter argument.
At a baseline, like everybody is for borders, and we like need borders. Like it's the way that like our world operates. It's not like specific to the United States, and if anything, like other countries protect their borders a lot more heavily than
they're
we
less
do.
likely to take like refugees.
Yeah, exactly. But like basically like the point is like it is like an important part of our country, and that's like why it's become such a big issue, because it's like something that will always exist, but like the approach to it varies so drastically.
Yeah, and I think like so I actually was listening to the All In podcast, and I know like Priya, you listened to their coverage of it too. And I thought how they broke it down was really interesting, although then they didn't really like discuss it because it was like
it was a wild conversation.
Who was cutting Jason off. It
Sachs.
was Sachs. Yeah, like Sachs just like cut Jason off the entire time.
Classic.
Basically, like Jason was trying to give the history like the same way that we're talking about like what past presidents did, and Sachs was like, "How is that relevant?" Like, he was like, "That's not what we're talking about." And Jason was like, "No, like it
Someone
is."
like quoted Trump and he was like, "Yeah,
drama.
no." And I was like, "That's like your guy that they're quoting." But anyways, like the way that they framed it, which I actually liked the framing of, was like they said there's 50 million undocumented
There's
immigrants,
not.
but there's 11 million. But anyways, there's 11 million undocumented immigrants in the U.S. And there's like a sliding scale, right?
Yeah.
You either want to deport all 11 million and you don't care like the amount of resources, you don't care who they are, or you want to deport 0. And then there's like a lot of people in the middle.
Yeah.
And like where Obama kind of fell was like he wanted to deport mainly criminal offenders and people that are actually physically at the border, which is easier because like they don't have a life here.
Yeah.
You're just like turning them around basically. And then where Trump fell during his first term was like kind of somewhere similar, but he was willing to take like more inhumane tactics than Obama, like family separation at the border.
Yeah.
And where he's falling now is like, actually, I'm down to target a larger chunk. Like they don't need to be criminal offenders. It doesn't matter if they're not at the border. They can have like entire lives here, which is actually a really difficult thing to do, just like resource wise.
Yeah.
Because it's like hard to find 11 million people that like have been here for years.
Yeah. I kind of went a little deeper into this to try to figure out what are like the different exact actions. So in Obama's term, they had priority tiers. So they had like different tiers of like national security threats to like serious felons to recent border crossers to like misdemeanors. And they would go in that order and kind of rank people or rank their priorities of like, hey, what do they want to go after? And especially like Trump is just known for like very large scale workplace raids, like going to meatpacking construction or going to Home Depot, which is just honestly awful at that place because like you're going to make money and then he's going and raiding you, and these people have no criminal record. There's clearly like more effective ways that it can be done.
And they have like children and lives, and like it was really sad. Like they were like taking people like on their way to like schools and stuff because they're like the places that they know people like can't stop going.
Yeah. Another thing I found was like on January 20th, Donald Trump suspended the refugee resettlements. So in the full pool of illegal immigrants, there's actually a sub pool that is like technically they're illegal, but due to like whatever certain situation they're in, they get a pardon. So you can think of these as like DACA. DACA is an example of it. And another example is like refugees, people who can't return back to their home place because it's like under war. And this was created after World War II to accommodate the Jewish people who fled from the Nazis. And then this continued to happen. So in the 1950s, Hungarians came. Then people started to turn on it basically in the 1970s when the Vietnamese came and then Latin Americans came because it was really racialized at that point. And so Trump fully just suspended this whole thing, which is crazy because we've had like a history of being the immigrant country.
Yeah.
And what's even crazier actually that I looked deeper is that this idea was started after World War II. Like pre-World War II, we never thought of ourselves as like the immigrant country. We actually tried to suspend a lot of immigration in the 20s and 30s. But after the 40s, like there was just a general consensus that we would open up our borders. So just like going backwards just feels terrible. But yeah.
Yeah, and like by the numbers, Obama deported about like 1.5 million in each of his 2 terms, and then Trump in his first term it was about 1 million, and then Biden dropped significantly, so it was like around 500,000. And yesterday Trump actually posted on social media basically being like, I want to specifically target Democratic cities and I want to do everything in my power to achieve like the largest scale mass deportation that we've ever seen. And so he was saying that he wants to target 3,000 arrests a day, which like from his first 5 months, it's only been 650. So like that's a significant increase if he actually is able to do that. But I was like looking at the numbers and it's honestly like not that crazy of a number, because like if you do the math out, let's say there's like 10 to 12 undocumented immigrants, like the math is that to get rid of all undocumented immigrants, it would take 11 years. And so let's go with like the 3,000 number for the next like 2.5 years. It would be around like 2.5 million arrests, which like is a million. Obviously that's like a huge number. But like when you think about like 2.5 versus like 1.5 to like 2, it is like not like insane.
The number that I was looking at is like by the end of April, they deported 140,000. So like Trump has basically deported 150,000-ish people so far.
Yeah. Which is probably 650 per day. I don't know.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And this all is influenced by Stephen Miller, who's Trump's deputy chief of staff for policy and basically a key architect in the administration's like immigration strategy. And Stephen Miller is actually like, there's reports of him screaming at the ICE officers right before all of these raids, being like, you better get your numbers up to 3,000, which is crazy. And he also has a crazy history, which we can get into.
Wait, what's his crazy history?
Basically, there's this like famous quote that he was like, when he was a freshman, he said, when I entered Santa Monica High School in 9th grade, I noticed a number of students lacked basic English skills. And like, and there are usually very few, if any, Hispanic students in my honors classes, despite the number of Hispanic students that attended our school. He talks a lot about him growing up and realizing that like essentially all these people are like illegal immigrants and they have like no use to our society and should like be kicked out. And so anyways, he's like
at fucking like 14.
No, at 14. He's been like
wild.
He's basically known as like a white nationalist, but like what happens is that he moves to Washington to work in Congress, then serves as a press secretary to a Republican representative for Minnesota, and then starts to work for Jeff Sessions, who's a right-wing Alabama senator. And this guy ends up later becoming Trump's first attorney general. So this guy gets like, so essentially like Stephen Miller tries to get closer and closer to Trump over time. Yeah. And in 2015 and 2016, there's a bunch of like emails that were released when he was working for the senator about basically his like white nationalist agenda. And it literally talks about him trying to stop all non-white immigration and force all non-white immigration out of the states, even people like you and me who have like birthright citizenships here as well. And so this is the guy that then this guy like essentially sticks by Trump through like the 2020 to 2024 era when Trump's down in the dumps, right? Comes back and gets appointed as the chief of staff for policy and is now running the entire ICE agenda, which is why it's like crazier than it's ever been before. And so I don't know, it's just like a stick to like the entire like, I don't know, like tech right in general, who's like built on immigration status and like a bunch of brown people, honestly, like a bunch of Asians, a bunch of brown people. It's like, hey, by the way, the president that you voted for is picking this guy who's just a pure white nationalist to run immigration policy.
So I feel like there's two components of the debate, basically like the ethical component and the economic component. And I think the economic component is interesting because it's not like the only thing that you should weigh, obviously, when like deciding what to do with like a human's life. But I think it is interesting to point out that like there's a ton of obviously scholars that look into this, but one professor that's pretty famous is Perry at UC Davis. And what they find is that the skill gaps that undocumented immigrants serve in the U.S., especially in like agriculture, food service, hospitality, would not be filled by documented people in the U.S. without them. And also that when you account for like the taxes and everything that immigrants like, or that undocumented people also like put back into the country, because like they pay taxes and stuff like through individual taxpayer numbers, basically.
So this is the crazy part. A lot of them actually like, it's that their taxes are withheld
from their paycheck
and,
also, yeah.
And they don't reap the benefits actually, because a lot of that tax money they can bring back because they're like, more is being withheld. And so they could have.
Than it needs to be.
Exactly. Yeah. So they could have access to a tax refund that they don't even collect.
But on the other side though, like if you are not here legally, then
you're
like
using resources.
You are using resources that like in theory, like I feel like it's hard because like on one end like you are paying taxes and so like you should be able to reap the benefits, but on the other side like you aren't here legally.
I think which is why like I think like Obama and Biden and like some Democratic presidents have tried to be like, we need to find like a way to let people that have been here for like that many years like become legal, so that it's like better for them, better for us.
Yeah. I mean, I think the other thing is that the net effect isn't necessarily negative, and it's
actually positive.
It is positive, right? So like even if you do account for all the resources that they're using from the country, it's still a positive effect for the country. And so like why?
Because it also keeps prices down. Like it's cheap labor, it keeps prices down, and like the lower like basically what most of the studies find is like the documented people in the country that even would potentially take the job, right? Let's say there's like a job at McDonald's that is like the overlap in the Venn diagram between what documented and undocumented people are generally willing to do. If like the documented person took the job instead, like that at large scale increases the prices of things because they take it at higher wages. And so they're found to like maybe get a 1 to 2% increase in wages that's just then completely offset by like the rise in prices of goods.
Yeah.
But that's like for the lowest income people in the country. But for like white collar people, they actually just like net benefit from it.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, people think that if you just mass deport everyone, you would shrink the labor force by 6.4% and you'd cut GDP about 5.7%, which is equivalent to like $1.6 trillion in dollars, which is essentially Great Recession territory.
Yeah.
So like we cannot survive without these people.
Which Trump finally said, because he literally says in the end, quote, "Our very aggressive policy on immigration is taking very good long-time workers away
from his hotels probably."
With those jobs being almost impossible to replace.
Yeah.
And I was like, how are you saying
You're
that like
yeah.
a day later? I don't understand how that's not like political suicide to literally just admit that your entire plan.
No, I know. And I feel like the other thing is like whether we like the current state of how things are today, it like is the reality of the United States. And so you have to take like measured approaches given the situation that we're in, because there was basically this like study done by, I think it was like the American Immigration Council or something like that, where they basically looked at like what the predicted GDP would be if there was the deportation of like 1.3 million illegal immigrants from like all the different countries. So it wasn't only the United States, but it was like Canada, Japan, like all of these other places. And the GDP for every other country ranged between -3 billion to a +2 billion result of these people being deported. And in the United States, it was -$800 billion.
That's crazy.
If we deported that same amount of people. So I think that shows like not only the economic impact it has, but that like the United States disproportionately has this problem. And like we have to think of like more complex solutions and like answers to this problem.
Yeah.
I don't even think we need more complex solutions or answers. I think we just do not need to do workplace and school place raids.
No, but I think like we do need a path to like give these like long time people a way to live in this country legally, because like,
but I think Obama had like a good crack at that problem. And I don't think like, I just think we're moving backwards. I think my point is not necessarily like I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just saying like I feel like it's a pretty complex problem.
Yeah, I think we're all saying the same thing. It's not that you need to reinvent the wheel and like everyone's gone over the solutions. There's only so many. It's more just like it's an operational issue once you actually start launching that. Like it takes a lot of money, and actually like we were talking about this before, but Trump's like behind on his deportation targets because it's like that hard to do.
Yeah.
And I think like that's where like tech becomes a big part of the conversation as well, because like Trump is trying to use tech to basically make the process more efficient, like specifically Palantir.
Yeah. So Palantir and ICE just announced a new contract for $30 million, and it was a no bid contract. So basically like they essentially just gave the contract to Palantir.
Who else would get it?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah, there's like no competition.
There's literally no competition.
And they're building a new system called Immigration OS, and they track and target millions of people living illegally in the United States. And they can literally use any data that the government has. So that's like personal addresses, workplace information, social media networks, visas. Like they're going to start identifying people who like take a visa and make sure that they get out of the country so that they don't stay on their current visa, which like that part I kind of get, because it's like what Obama was doing in a sense of like people who just crossed the border, they should go back because they don't have a life here. But they also will be using any like interaction you have with the police.
Immigration OS is actually being built on the platform that like Obama originally had Palantir build, which I think is really interesting because like Palantir has been like so entrenched in our government for like a while now. And like you brought up the point that like they were originally incubated by the government.
Yeah, like in InQtel, like the
Yeah.
CIA's venture firm literally incubated Palantir, which like makes so much sense.
Yeah. And like basically the Obama administration gave it to Homeland Security to investigate like serious cross-border criminal activity. So it was like money laundering, human trafficking, like all of these things, and also like deporting people that were at the border. And so like it's like one thing just like snowballs into another because it's like you can use the same technology for like all of these different things. And like now we see how it's like going to be used.
Yeah, it's like in what way it's used. Yeah.
Also, the social media thing is crazy because like I literally see people post that they're undocumented on TikTok like all the time.
Yeah.
Literally so many people.
Which I'm like, why would you post that? Like, I feel like at some point, like the
Yeah.
government could like literally militarize that at any point.
Oh, for
No, for sure. But then it's like our parents look at what we post and they're like, why would you post that? So it's like, I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying everyone has like a different standard of what they're like comfortable with.
Yeah.
Because it's also not a criminal offense to be here without documents. It's a civil offense. So you go to like immigration court.
But like, I think it's hard when you live in a time where like,
Oh, 100%.
you don't know what like
no,
the
I mean,
law means.
I would
like,
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I would not do that. I just think it's like crazy to see like it be public information that Palantir will scrape your social media and then people still say they're undocumented on their social media. And like they're going to use like, I feel like when I start to think about like social media networks, like imagine an algorithm just like deciding who is undocumented based on like knowing everyone who follows everyone.
No, it like wouldn't be hard. I mean, like the scale at which like Palantir can make this operation, like it does just like you can track every single person in the United States pretty well. Like if you consider all the access to like traffic cameras and like public information and like data and like social media and everything, like I'm like pretty confident that you could track every single person and know like most things about them.
Well, they kind of like already have history of doing this. Like we talked about this during our Palantir episode of like what they did in LA with the LAPD and how they like had like they literally just scored individuals and then went to the high risk individuals and hoped they caught them for something.
I think the clear difference is like now they can take like the data stored in like government organizations. Like recently Trump passed his executive order saying that he wants like all these different silos of the government to talk to each other, right? And then like there was pushback where like Doge was asking for like people's tax information, their SSN information, and then the judges are like going back and forth saying like no, you can't do that. But then like Trump is basically saying like no, I want all of these departments to talk together. And now like Palantir's in talks with like the Social Security Administration basically. And I think like that's where it gets like even more scary because it's like the local police that were working with Palantir in LA like had like their interactions with them and like their social media, but there's still like national data that they didn't have. But now it's like we have no choice. Like we all have to pay our taxes. Like they have to have our information, but then they're like going to use it against you.
Yeah. I think the other thing on top of all of this is that the House just passed a bill called the Big Beautiful Bill where they give ICE another $45 billion to expand detention capacity and $14 billion on removal operations and $8 billion to hire more ICE officers. So it's kind of crazy that like, I don't know, Trump is like, what's the stat? How much they're trying to save
In Doge
like every day or something, and then they just go and like pass this bill and it's like counteracting the spending of like and like he's not even being that effective with the ICE removals of like what he has today. But yeah, this has yet to pass the Senate. We'll see what happens with that.
I feel like a lot of people were really against it, right? I remember seeing a bunch of things on Twitter and like even like a bunch of people on his side were like, this is insane.
Well, isn't that what the whole Elon Trump split was over?
Yeah, that was like part of it. Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if I actually think that he will tone it down a little bit.
Well, yeah, if it goes like how tariffs go, he probably will tone it down. It's just
but it's still like super sad.
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't know, maybe like if he gets the technology, like he will try to hit quotas but like not do workplace raids, but at the same time it seems like he doesn't care. So
I mean, I won't name like who this is or how I know them, but basically this person like will not go to their grocery stores anymore because like there's been so many raids there.
Oh my God.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so they literally have to go to like the whitest of neighborhoods to go get groceries.
That's crazy.
No, it's like so sad.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. And it is crazy because I feel like people also think it's like in communities that like maybe you're not a part of, but it's like crazy. Like I literally in Irvine, there were like a ton of ICE raids literally at the grocery store, like right outside my house, which is like Irvine is the safest city in all of California. Like it's literally the #1 safest city in all of California. And like, it's literally like suburban, just like normal.
It's also like those people are like either like building construction sites. Like the undocumented people in Irvine are probably at construction sites building like things for like the Trumps of the world or like cleaning houses. Like what else? What other job
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's just
what
like
are you-
sad. Like it's like they're going
Yeah.
there to work like longer hours than anyone else. They're getting paid less than anyone else, and you're just like taking them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have like kids and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't even understand like what
happens.
what happens. Yeah. Like I don't think. I mean, I guess you go into like foster care basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really sad.
Yeah, it is really sad.
Anyways, with that, we end our episode. Thanks for listening. Next week, we have a fun episode scheduled. It's an interview with a recent founder of a YC startup that just completed their demo day. And it's a really fun conversation.
It's really fun.
So you definitely should take a listen. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.